In the past Mishnayot, we discussed a lot the difference in the chiyuv, in the obligation of women, in the mitzvot that it's called time-bound mitzvot. We learn certain mitzvot, certain commandment applies to both men and women, and certain mitzvot women does not have the obligations. Since we discuss differences, we go next, the Meiri said, the discussion between mitzvot that applies specifically to Eretz Israel and mitzvot that they are not. So we are on page 37, we start 36b at the very bottom of the page. כל מצווה שהיא תלויה בארץ אינה נוהגת אלא בארץ. Any mitzvah, any commandments that depend upon the land, meaning the physical dwelling in the land of Israel, so therefore the application of that mitzvah is specifically and solely, in a sense, we circumscribe, we limited the mitzvah to Eretz Israel, ושאינה תלויה בארץ, נוהגת בין בארץ, בין בחוץ על הארץ. If it's not depend upon the condition of being in the land, as you know, we have 613 mitzvot. We have in those lists many mitzvot that you have to have a land in Israel in order to fulfill them, such as first fruits, okay, such as giving tithe to a Kohanim, Leviim, etc., the poor. All those specific mitzvot, biblically speaking, applies solely if you are there, if Eretz Israel. If the mitzvah is a general mitzvah, it applies everywhere. Page 37. Chutz mina orla, the Torah said in the book of Vayikra, Leviticus chapter 19, verse 23, the Torah tells us that any produce that come out of those trees in the first 3 years, it's called orla, and it is prohibited to derive any joy, any benefit. Now, even that it is a mitzvah hatluya ba'aretz, it's depend upon dwelling in the land of Israel, there is, Rashi said, a specific halacha that tells us that this mitzvah applies as well outside of Eretz Israel, and also diverse kind, vechilaim. Chilaim, it's, we have different category. There's one, it's called kilei zraim, meaning if you have a plant and you combine a diverse kind of plant, or you have kilei hakerem, if you have a vineyard and you combine two different things, or take for example the etrogim, right? We have etrog murkav, harkava, meaning you combine two different trees and you make it together. Or another option is kilei beheima, if you take two different animals and you combine it either by cohabitations or other matter of plowing. And the last one is the sha'atnez, the linen and wool together, as the Torah said in both Leviticus 19 and Deuteronomy 22. So all that applies to Eretz Israel. Outside of Israel, it's a rabbinic, right? That's what Rashi said.
Sha'atnez
what?
Is the Rabbanan Chutz La'aretz.
That's what Rashi here said.
Okay.
That's based on the, also in Mishnah, in Tractate Olah, chapter 3, Mishnah number 9.
Kilei Zra'im are not in Chutz La'aretz at all, are they?
All these lists, according to Rashi, okay, all these lists, it's when you talk about Kil'aim, it's bechutz la'aretz mid'Rabbanan. Rashi. Kilei Zra'im, obviously you can argue and you can say that it's in Eretz Israel because of the nature. Anyway, Rabbi Eliezer Omer, Af Hechadash. Hechadash, that's important. The famous
How do they
Chazon Ish.
determine that Sha'atnez when, specifically only applies in Eretz Israel, the Oraita?
That's a famous Chazon Ish. But before we go there, let me give you a little introduction. What? Yeah, Chadash. What is Chadash? Chadash is the prohibition of eating anything new before, now we're counting the Omer, right? Before bringing the Omer at the 16th of Nisan. So any tvua, any crop that planted in the ground, and the moment they reach the 16th of Nisan, it's already stopped. So how you do it? You differentiate. The Torah said in Leviticus 13, verse 24, that it's a big discussion later on. You see, according to Rabbi Eliezer, if Chadash is considering only for Eretz Yisrael, or meaning mitzvah tluya ba'aretz or not. So my tluya, there is a book called Makne. That's for you, Michael. So in the book of Makne, he discussed the whole idea of the Isurim. He says dafka lechem haaretz. If it's not lechem haaretz, it's not part of the.
What does lechem haaretz mean?
You tell me, what is lechem haaretz? When you right? So when you're speaking about kilei zra'im,
yeah,
right? If you go by the Sefer HaMakne, you said that that's specifically in solely to Eretz Yisrael. Anyway, my tluya or my shena tluya. What do you mean mitzvah that depend upon the land and mitzvah that does not? That are not. Ilema dechtiv babi'ah, ilema tluya dechtiv babi'ah. Because there is a v'chi tavo el haaretz when you enter the land, v'she'ena tluya delo chtiv babi'ah. So there are certain mitzvot in the Torah. The Torah said specifically when you enter the land, or when the Lord your God bring you to the land, which means the Rashi said that this is a conditional. You have to enter the land and dwell there in order to fulfill it. V'harei tefillin upeter chamor. The Torah said in the book of Shemot, we just read it, chapter 13, verse 13, that if the female donkey have the baby male, so they need to redeem it. Bechor, right? And take the substitute, the seh, and give it to the Kohen. First, yes, that's what you said. Firstborn. And if he refuses to do it, so you need to do arifah. Right? Needs to, anyway. So they said, "Ichtiv ben bi'ah, noagin ben ba'aretz ben bechutz haaretz." Now, the Gemara in Menachot 35 have a discussion about the mitzvah tefillin. But anyway, there is a Hava Amina that it was only in Eretz Yisrael, right? But the Maskana, the way that the Ramban and Ritva and Rashba, that it's everywhere. But anyway, אמר רב יהודה אחי קמא, כל מצווה שהיא חובת הגוף נוהגת בין בארץ ובין בחוץ לארץ. חובת קרקע אינה נוהגת אלא בארץ. Here is something that the Kovetz Shiurim elaborates. The idea is we have two categories. One is the body obligations, meaning that it's the mitzvah like Shabbat, like Tefillin, right? Like Brit Milah, all those arayot, all those mitzvot, it's mitzvot that depend upon a person's body. So therefore, that's apply everywhere. Makes no difference where you are. Versus mitzvah of taking the tithe, separating the door, right? Giving the poor people, the indigent, a gift. All those mitzvot, leket, shichecha, peah, that אינה נוהגת על בארץ, only in Eretz Yisrael. מנהל המילי. How do you know that this applies solely to Eretz Yisrael? לתנו רבנן. What?
You say giving poor people gifts, you mean
מתנות
like you have to
עניים.
give from the grain.
Yeah. So the תנו רבנן. The Torah said in Deuteronomy chapter 12, אלה החוקים, אלו המדרשות. Okay, the midrashot, chukim, Tosfot Rosh said that it's something that is not always clear. Here, the source is not clearly come out of the pasuk. והמשפטים אלו הדינים, תשמרון, אשר תשמרון זו משנה, right, that's the safeguard. And then they say, לעשות זו מעשה, בארץ יכול כל המצוות לא כולנו נוגעים אליו הארץ. So they say, תלמוד לומר כל הימים אשר יותר חיים על האדמה. The Malbim said specifically על האדמה. אי כל הימים יכול יהיו נוהגים את בארץ בין לחוץ לארץ, תלמוד לומר בארץ. אחר שריבה הכתוב ומיעט, so they said, צא ולמד, ממה שאמור בעניין, הבד תאבדון את כל המקומות אשר עבדו שם הגויים, מה עבודת כוכבים מיוחדת שהיא חובת הגוף. The same way, good morning. The same as a via negativa, the idea of a expunge or eradicate all manner of idol worshipping. So that's חובת הגוף, that it's in a way body's obligation. ונוהגת בין בארץ בין בחוץ על הארץ. It's applied everywhere, regardless location. אף כל שהיא חובת הגוף, נוהגת בין בארץ בין בחוץ על הארץ. So that's one of the 13 principles of Rabbi Ishmael. It's called דבר הלמד מעניינו. You learn it from the concept. So when the Torah said כל הימים אשר אתם חיים על האדמה, all those years that you live in the land, so it's not limited to the mitzvah of bi'ur avodat kochavim, to eradicate the idol worshipping, but it's also all the other mitzvot that's similar to that mitzvah. That's the famous Rambam in Ilchot Avodat Kochavim, chapter 7. So they say that it's a special chiyuv, special obligation. The Ritva challenged that, and he said that it's only Be'eretz Israel. That's why also the Ramban said. But then the Mishnah continued and said, Chutz min ha'orla ve'akil'ayim. All those mitzvot that it's not dependent upon the dwelling on the land, so it's applied to Eretz Israel, excluding from the orla, the mitzvah of the orla, it's up to the 3 years, and the kil'ayim, the diverse kinds. רבי אליעזר אומר אף החדש. אוקיי, היבה אלו, רבי אליעזר לכולה פליג ולחומרה פליג. When you speak about רבי אליעזר, so simply speaking, the Tana Kama, the first Tana hold that מצוות חדש, it's not יוצאת מן הכלל, and it's not applied outside of Eretz Israel. רבי אליעזר disputed and said חדש applies also outside of Israel, like Orla, like Kil'ayim, and that's the way the Gemara explained at the end. So based on the Gemara in Menachot 65, they said that it was a time that certain rabbis, the certain Amoraim, that did mitzvat chadash beBavel. Now, to me it's amazing always how it's related to our times, because we are now at the season of the chadash. It's because it's a fresh right start, so that's the time. But anyway, so the question is, Rabbi Eliezer disputed in Tana Kama, it's in a manner of lenience or stringency. Lechumra palig v'achar kamar Tana Kama. You can go one avenue to say that he is disputed in a sense of stringency, and he hold that mitzvot that depend upon dwelling in the land applies to and solely to Eretz Israel, chutz, excluding min ha'orla umin ha'kil'ayim. From those two mitzvot, the hilcheta gmirela. Because we have halacha and Moshe Sinai that these mitzvot apply even outside of Eretz Israel. The Rashash said that it's not halacha and Moshe Sinai. Others have the derivative from the text. Afal gav de'ika lemeimar chovat karkai. Even you can say that this mitzvah depends upon the land, and therefore it should apply solely living in the land. Aval chadash ba'aretz ein, bechutz al haaretz lo. Mai ta'ama? Because the Torah used the word bechol moshvoteichem, in any place of dwelling. That's Vayikra, Leviticus 23, verse 14. Moshav le'achar Yerusha v'yeshiva mashma. So it was a different time. So if you remember, part of my drasha day before yesterday was the idea that it was a Pesach Mitzrayim. It was the first time that they celebrate Passover when they left Egypt, and then it was an era that the people were not circumcised, as we read in the Haftarah of yesterday. And therefore it was a period that it wasn't Pesach. And then later on, when they entered the land, Rashi said, Yoshua led a public Pesach after the act of public circumcision in a place called Gilgal. So that's 14 years later. Then they conquered, they divided the land. So up to that point, all those 14 years did not have the obligation of Chadash. So it means you hold now that the mitzvah of Chadash applies solely only if you are in Eretz Israel. Ve'ata Rabbi Eliezer lemeimar, Rabbi Eliezer come and teach us a stringency here. Af Chadash noheg ben ba'aretz, ben bechutz ha'aretz. The same as Orla, the same as Kil'aim. Mai ta'ama, moshav bechol makom she'atem yoshvim. Meaning even outside of Israel. So the Torah tells us clearly that mitzvah Chadash applies also outside of Israel, right? Now that's one avenue. And that avenue is called stringent avenue, because then you impose now also upon those dwellers outside of Israel. Or Dilma, or you may go the other way around, that Rabbi Eliezer lekula palig, that he disputed in a manner of leniency. והאחיקה אמר תנא קמא, the mitzvot that depend upon the land, חוץ מן העורלה והכלאיים דהלכתא גמירא לה, that here we have, which we call הלכה למשה מסיני, tradition that we receive from Moses, that said that those mitzvot, like orla and kil'aim, orla for you, come a little late, is any fruits, any produce that came during the 3 years after planting, and kil'aim is diverse kind. So we said, v'chol sheken chadash, the moshav, kol makom she'atem yoshvim mashma, even outside of the land of Israel. And therefore, even someone who's outside of land have the obligation to observe. Ata Rabbi Eliezer lememar chadash noeg la ba'aretz, moshav la'achar yerusha v'yeshiva mashma. It's only umay af akamaita. So that's the first din in Mishnah that said every mitzvah that depend upon the dwelling in the land, it's only in Eretz Israel. It said that's the chidush. That's only Rabbi Eliezer said only chadash applied to Eretz Israel, is outside, it's not. By the way, there is, I talked to Michael the day before yesterday about the difference between Rashi and Ramban, if it's a condition or not, the dwelling in Eretz Israel. There is a view that said that the whole idea of mitzvah of Eretz Israel, dwelling in Eretz Israel, is a precondition. First you get rid of the abomination, V'yirishta v'yashavta ba. That's the Rashi's view. The Ramban put it as part of the list. Minyan moneh mitzvot, a mitzvah of Yishuv Eretz Israel, because by him it's not a precondition. So that's, anyway. Tashmad amar Abaye. Man tana defaliga led Rabbi Eliezer, Rabbi Ishmaeli de Tanya. We have the mitzvah of nesachim. What is libation? Is that correct? Libation. So that's mitzvah that combine with the korbanot, with offering, that opens with the statement from the book of Bamidbar, chapter 15. Ki tavo, when you enter, el eretz moshvoteichem, asher ani noten lachem. What is moshvoteichem? Well, it means after you enter, you inherited the land, you conquered, you dwell, then you have the obligation. So that's a Gemara in Tractate Zvachim, page 111, 112. It said, because they use the term lachem meaning plural, Rashi said, which is only bamat tzibur, only public a offering. There is a mitzvah of libation, not yachid, not individual, because what? Public altar, because the difference is we have a private and we have a public altar. A private altar, it's only obligatory to bring individual offering. Public, obviously, it's korbanot tzibur, it's a public offering. So in the earliest time, everyone can build an altar. Later, when they build the temporarily temple in Shiloh, they put a prohibition. And it wasn't a roof, you know, it was a temporarily, even it was a 369 years. So that time, this one view, they prohibited any form of altar. Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai in Zvachim 119 said that it was a different time. But anyway, after the Shiloh they destroyed, and they moved to a place in North Israel. It's called Nov. So then, and then it was in a Givon. So the whole idea of having offering was again a period of time of 57 years. 57 years, and then that time the altar, considering as a bama gdola, and therefore they allow it. As I said, they allow bama gdola, but then the moment the Mishnah in Zvachim 112 said the moment they build a permanent Beit HaMikdash, then all the other altars are prohibited. So since they use the term Asher Ani Noten Lachem, that I give it to you, it means that all the libation offering applies to what? To a public altar, solely and only. And the word Moshvotechem, every place that you dwell, which means the whole idea of public altar was in those locations, Shiloh, Nov, Givon. So Rabbi Ishmael hold, when you use the term Moshvotechem, so it means the obligation is not immediately upon entering the land, but only after the 14 years that they conquered the land, they divided the land, and then they're bringing libation offering in the public altar solely and only. You're welcome to read more in the Rashi here. But anyway, ללמדך שכל מקום שנאמר במושב אינו אלא לאחר ירושה וישיבה דברי רבי ישמעאל. So Rabbi Ishmael said, look, it's a conditional. It doesn't mean that you have to do it right away. You have a list of obligations. You need to conquer the land. You need to go to war to make sure that all those inhabitants, are either ger toshav or are out, right? You need to have a total control. And then upon total dwelling, then you have the obligation to do it. So that's Rabbi Ishmael view. The same, the word Moshav that we speak in the Parashat Nesachim. Amar lo Rabbi Akiva responded to Rabbi Ishmael and he said, Harei Shabbat. If you look at another place in the Torah that he used the word Moshavot, Harei Shabbat shene'emar bo Moshavot. The Torah said in Shmot 35 verse 3, Lo teva'aru esh, you should not burn a fire, bechol moshvotechem, in any place of dwelling, beyom HaShabbat, on the holy Shabbat. So that's the way Rashi explained. Tosfot challenged that. Tosfot bring a Gemara in Tractate Shabbat, page 20, that said that it's a different Rashi, a different meaning. Venoheget, anyway, we're going here by Rashi. Venoheget, bein ba'aretz, bein bechutz ha'aretz, because you see that mitzvah of Shabbat applies also when they are in a midbar, when they are wilderness. Why? Because if you examine the mitzvah of the tabernacle in the book of Shmot, chapter 31, the Torah said, Ach ed shabtotai tishmor. So it means that even the time that they are in the desert. Also in the Parashat Haman, when the Torah speaks about manna from heaven, you see also the mitzvah of Shabbat, or Parashat Mekoshesh in Bamidbar 15. So you see that all these halachot of Shabbat, the Pnei Yoshua explains from all these sources, applies also the time that they are in a desert. So they said, Amar lo. So Rabbi Ishmael responded to Rabbi Akiva, and he said the source of mitzvah Shabbat is also outside of Israel. It's not because of the word Moshav. It's a different reason. Shabbat, mikal v'chomer atya, or kal v'chomer atya. Ma mitzvot kalot. If you talk about a light, lenient mitzvot, ben ba'aretz, ben bechutz ha'aretz, you see the obligation in both Shabbat chamira, because the Torah puts skila, stoning for someone who violates Shabbat, And Makna explained that someone who violates Shabbat is the same as someone who was idol worshipping. So therefore, they said, Lo kol sheken, how much so that it's applied to both Israel and outside of Israel. Mida amar Abaye, man tana defaliga led Rabbi Eliezer Rabbi Ishmael. So it means that from this statement of Abaye means that the Tana disputed Rabbi Eliezer is Rabbi Ishmael. Shma mina, so that's the final conclusion. Rabbi Eliezer lechumra palig shma mina, which is Rabbi Eliezer disputed Tanakama in a manner of stringency, because according to Abaye, the Tanakama, the first Tana is Rabbi Ishmael, that said that Moshav is after Yerusha v'Yeshiva, after the inheritance and dwelling. So it means that Chadash applies solely in Eretz Israel. So therefore, what you see here, Rabbi Eliezer disputed lechumra, in a matter of stringency, and said that Moshav, in any place, bechol makom shtem yoshvim, any place you dwell, and the same as Orla and Kilayim, that applies also in Chutz La'aretz, Shma Mina, it's also the Chadash. So it means Rabbi Eliezer Machmir, and he prohibited Chadash outside of Eretz Israel. The Rambam in Ilchot Tmidim, Musafim chapter 7 said that you have to remember that all this prohibition of Chadash is only before the Omer. But Ktzirat HaTvuah, but cutting the produce, the crops, that before the Omer, that allows. That's the famous Rambam. But halachically speaking, there is a disputation among the poskim if Chadash applies to Chutz La'aretz or not. If that's biblical, if it's that rabbinic. The Tosfot said that it's not in our day, it's not Bazman Hazeh. The others, the Shulchan Aruch Yoreh De'ah in Reish Tzadik Gimel 293 say that again, it's a big disputation if Chadash is how far you go. It's a biblical, it's rabbinic, it's outside of Israel, it's not outside of Israel. Anyway, Mikdei. So the Rabbi Ishmael Hakai, what is the line that Rabbi Ishmael support by saying that Moshav, the dwelling, apply after what? Yerusha v'Yeshiva. He said Anesachim, because you have this line in the mitzvah of libation. Bin Sachim.
Rabbi, a few questions I had based on what we studied in the past Talmud. First of all, you mentioned with regard to Shatnez that it only that Deoraita it only applies in Eretz Yisrael, and
that's the Chazon Ish.
And so that's specifically produce from Eretz Yisrael, according to the Deoraita, is specifically linen that was grown in Eretz Yisrael and wool from flocks from Eretz Yisrael. It applies biblically just to that situation. Then, according to the Rabbanan, it's any combination.
We have to differentiate between several kil'aim. We have, as I said, we have a concept of kil'ei kerem. We have kil'ei zra'im. Yep. Michael, can you elaborate?
Just quickly, when you deal with seeds, there's two types of kilayim. When you're just plain mixing seeds together, or in the same area, is kilei zra'im, that's only in Israel.
Mm-hmm.
But the other type, which is much more strict, is mixing other types of seeds, non-grape, in a vineyard.
And with grape,
that's much more
specifically, right? Growing something else in a vineyard. Okay.
And that, in certain cases, as we will see later, applies even outside Israel.
And then
Michael and I studied yesterday,
yeah,
so
Shatnez, mixing wool and linen of clothing, of course, is anywhere.
Beautiful. So we are page
the Oraita.
Yes.
Not according to the Oraita, according to Rabbanan, anywhere for Shatnez that you mentioned.
Shatnez, mixing of linen and wool.
Specifically, according to
so the Chazon Ish is the one who said that that's a by rabbinic view goes everywhere. It's not just in Eretz Israel, but it's not the view of everyone.
But they would all agree that according to the Oraita applies specifically to products from Israel.
Correct.
Right. And
Correct.
then with regard to Orla followed outside of Eretz Israel, Orla, when you're talking about that, that applies simply to farmers, not to Jews trying to buy other products. They're not concerned about non-Jewish farmers
Yes.
selling fruits early.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
we're only concerned about Jewish farmers
Yes.
specifically. Okay.
Yes.
We'll see
Okay.
later on outside Israel is very, very limited.
No, I understand, I
Right,
understand.
we'll go there. ביאר מושב, כתיב בהו, we are 37b. ביאר מושב, because the Torah said coming and the term dwelling, the Torah said, כי תבואו אל ארץ מושבותיכם, when you come into the land of you dwelling. So the question is, that why Rabbi Ishmael use only the term dwelling? הכי כאמר ללמד שכל מקום שנאמר ביאה, teach us that wherever both coming and dwelling are stated, it applies ומושב, no אלא לאחר ירושה וישיבה. So it's all applies only after the coming and dwellings, after inheritance and settlement in the land of Israel. That's what Rabbi Ishmael holds. So the Gemara challenged that and said, יח, אמר לו רבי עקיבא, הרי שבת שנאמר בו מושבות. The Torah used the word dwelling when it's come to mitzvah of Shabbat. And it also applies to חוץ לארץ, outside of Israel. ואמר לו, שבת קל וחומרי. So Rabbi Ishmael said, when it's come to Shabbat, הוא לא קל וחומר. נאמר לאנה ביאה ומושב כאמינה. Because I talk specifically in those places that said dwelling, that it's specifically in Eretz Israel, coming and dwelling, both written in the case of Shabbat, it's a case the dwelling, and they said and there's another reason, ועוד, אמרת שבת, שהרי נאמר בו מושבות, שבת קל וחומרי. You talk about Shabbat, that they used the state word dwelling. Shabbat is derived by kal vachomer. Chada, so they said, Chada ka'amar li, Chada ve'ana bi'au moshav ka'amina. So here we have, it's a word that's called achat ve'od. So several. So the essence, the key reason, it's because they use the term dwelling and coming. ועוד, הקה אמרת הרי שבת שנאמר במושבות, שבת קל וחומרי. במה היא כמפליגי? בקרבו נסכים במדבר כמפליגי. So the disputation is with they have the sacrifice libation in the wilderness. Rabbi Akiva derives different halachot from the term dwelling. ורבי ישמעאל סבר לא קרבו נסכים במדבר. And Rabbi Ishmael hold that they did not sacrifice libation in the wilderness, because he hold that it was not, the obligation to sacrifice libation came into effect only when they are dwelling in the land of Israel. Rabbi Akiva סבר קרבו נסכים במדבר. Rabbi Akiva hold they did sacrifice libations in the wilderness. So as you see, the Rabbi Akiva derived different halachot from the term dwelling. אמר רביי, היי תנא דבר רבי ישמעאל מפיק מאידך תנא דבר רבי ישמעאל. He says what we hear here from the school of Rabbi Ishmael, that only when the terms coming and dwelling are both written, does the mitzvah takes effect after settling in Eretz Israel, diverges from another statement of Rabbi Ishmael. The Tana דבר רבי ישמעאל, הואיל ונאמרו ביאות בתורה סתם, because the whole idea of coming to Eretz Israel, it's mentioned in the Torah in connection to many mitzvot without going to a specification that when they arrive there, ופרט לך כתוב באחד מהם לאחר ירושה וישיבה, and the Torah says specifically that is after inheritance and settlement in the land of Israel, in the mitzvah of appointing a king. So too, אף כל לאחר ירושה וישיבה, wherever coming to the land mentioned without specification, without qualification, it means after inheritance and settlement. So according to this opinion, there is no need for the pasuk to also mention in the term dwelling. Ve'idach, and the other Tana, mishum dehava melech ubikurim shnei chtuvim abaim ke'echad. As you know, one of the 13 principles of Rabbi Ishmael is shnei ktuvim abaim ke'echad. If you have two psukim, two verses that come as one, and they teach us the same matter. V'chol shnei ktuvim abaim ke'echad, and any two verses that come as one, ein melamdim, do not teach a precedent that applies to other case. So here you see only the place that use the dwelling and coming, so that's only after Yerusha v'Yeshiva, dwelling and getting. We have today many students, and one of them we welcome specifically. Anyway, good to have you. What?
You can say who it is.
You will sit next to me, so you see my Gemara too. Counts.
I'm writing over his
All right, Ve'idach. What?
I'm writing over his face.
Now you see his face too. Okay. Ve'idach, we are here. We are here. Ve'idach, and the other Tana, which is the Tana of the school of Rabbi Ishmael, cited by Abaye, Tzriche. The Torah needs to tell us both Yerusha, the dwelling, and Yeshiva. Why? Because we talk about two mitzvot. One is the appointed a king, and one is the mitzvah of the firstborn. So we say that it's only, think logically, okay? You need to dwell the land. You need to drive out all those who troublemakers, or they accepted your authority, and only then you can go ahead and make all the arrangement, the mitzvah of the king, the mitzvah of the first fruits. It has to be in a level. If the Torah just said, since we know that Torah is very prudent in words, right? So if we said just the mitzvah of the Yerusha v'Yeshiva, inheritance and dwell, it's only in regards to appointed a king and not in regards to mitzvah of a firstborn. So, Hava Amina, I may thought, Bikurim v'kam mithanei le'alta. What is the idea? The Khatam Sofer explains, what's the purpose of the firstborn? So we thanking Hashem, we thanking God for the fruits of the land, and you cannot tell me that those 14 years they entered the land until Yoshua did all, they didn't bring any firstborn. So therefore, v'ikatav bikurim v'lo katav melech, hava amina melech darko lichbosh le'altar. So you say that the king, how he conquered, must be appointed immediately, even before entering Eretz Israel. That's the manner of king, right? Now the whole principle of shnei chtuvim abayim ktechad, if you have two verses that come as one, ein melamdim, it's only if it's used for different purposes. Ve'idach, so the first Tana responds, and he said, Nichtov Rachmana Melech, velo ba'e bikurim. We may say that the Torah, the mercy one, the Torah used the term king, and it's enough that the Torah said Yerusha and Yeshiva, dwelling and conquering in regards to king, and you derive from that also the mitzvah of the bikurim, of the first fruit. Ve'ana amina, and I understand, Uma melech delichbosh, what we said, a manner of king, that he conquered during the act of war. So therefore the mitzvah needs to be applied immediately when they enter the land, and le'achar Yerusha v'Yeshiva, and even though we said when the mitzvah applies, only after the inheritance and settlement. Bikurim lo kol sheken, the first vote is not all more so reasonable that the similar halacha applies to them. So if so, these are two verses that come as one, which do not teach a precedent. Ve'idach, and the answer of the second Tana, ikatav hachi hava mina midei the hava achala. So we derive that the mitzvah of bikurim is derived from the mitzvah of chala, which is another priestly gift from one produce, which applies immediately upon the entrance of the land of Israel. So that's the Torah in Bamidbar, in the book of Numbers, chapter 15. The Torah said, "Bevo'achem el haaretz," meaning the moment you enter the land. So the mitzvah of afrashat chala, taking a tithe from the chala, which I think you do that a lot, right? In the kitchen, you're taking a part, right? And I'm talking about those groups, right? So they do mitzvah of chala all the time, which is very nice. So here we talk about the obligation the moment they enter the land, right? So Rabbi Ishmael said, "Bevoachem" applies to the moment that you are there. You don't need to go the whole process. You do it right away. Kamash melan. So therefore, the Braita needs to say it specifically, lucidly, that the mitzvah of chala applies only after Yerusha in Shiva. That is a chidush. So since you tell me that you need to have the process, which again, the inheritance and dwelling, in regards to appoint the king, and in regards to what? To a first fruits. So it's no longer shnei ktuvim aba'im ke'echad. It's no longer two verses that come as one, and therefore you cannot derive from that the mitzvah of Yerusha v'yeshiva. Now it's important to know that's a Ritva, and you see it also in the Chazon Ish, that said that a mitzvah of bikurim is very similar to chala. Why? Because when you talk about matnot kehuna, Michael, how do you translate it? The gift for the priests? Okay, freedom of Kohanim. So that's they do it when they have these services. So they take the produce of the land, and they take also from the door. So that's the notion of the Ritva said that they should do it right away when they enter the land. The same is the mitzvah of chala. Now, we must remember that there is a Gemara we studied in Tractate Kiddushin, page 25, that said that bevo'achem, there is a different drasha. But anyway, v'hashta de'amart chovat haguf noeged ben be'eretz Yisrael ben bechutz la'aretz. What we said earlier, we said that we have two categories. One, it's called chovat haguf, the obligation upon your body. For example, mitzvah of Shabbat. Right? You have a certain brit milah. It's depend upon a person's body, versus the mitzvah that it's chovat karka, that depend upon the land. So two different things. So he said, "V'ashta de'amart," and now you tell me that chovat haguf noheget, that the obligation upon the body applies both in Eretz Yisrael and outside of Eretz Yisrael. Moshav dekatav rachman agabei Shabbat lamali. So when the dwelling, the Torah use in the Leviticus 23, when they use the word dwelling on Shabbat, why you need it? Shabbat is the body obligation, so even without using the word in any place of dwelling, we understand that apply everywhere. So the Gemara said, "Itzterich," you do need it. Why? Salka da'ata chamina. It may enter to your mind to say, "Ho'ilu b'inyanad le'moadot ktiva." Since the mitzvah of Shabbat is written in a contextual, in the framework, in the text of a festival, tiba'ei kiddush ki moadot. You should require sanctification by the rabbinic court like the festivals, which rely on the sanctification of the new moon by the rabbinic court. Kamash melan, so therefore the verse teaches us that this is not required. Moshav dechatav rachmana, gabei chelev v'dam lamali. Now, when you use the term dwelling, which the Torah used, rachmana meaning merciful one, the Torah is a expression of euphemism for the Torah. Gabei chelev v'dam, but it's written in the mitzvah of the avoiding fat and blood. So that the Torah said in Leviticus 3, a perpetual statue throughout all your generations, in all your dwellings, that you shall eat neither forbidden fat nor blood. So this is a strong negative commandment. So lamali. So the Gemara said, you have to have it because since these prohibitions are written in the context of the offering, nitzar chelev v'dam. So when you have an offering and the Kohanim sacrifice fat and blood upon the altar, which is the time of the Beit HaMikdash Kayam, the temple is standing, that is forbidden fat and blood, total prohibited for consumption. Bizman the Ika Korban, when you have the offering, Nitzar Chelev v'chalav, you're prohibited Bizman the Leika Korban, when there is no offering. So forbidden fat and blood are not forbidden. Kamashmela, no, they tell us what? That's always forbidden. Moshav, the Chatav Rachmana, Gabi Matzah U'Maror La'amali, we're now in Pesach. Isn't that amazing? Rabbi Isai, no? Amazing. So Moshav, the Chatav Rachmana, Gabi Matzah U'Maror, why do we need the term the dwelling which the Torah writes in regard to mitzvah of matzah and maror? Is, you know, the statement Nagadah. You have to have it as part of the obligation. So why? Istrich. So they said you need it, necessary. Since they said with matzah and a bitter herb they should eat it, bizman de'ika pesachin, bizman de'leika pesach la. When you have the mitzvah of Pesach, then you have the obligation, the Paschal offering, right? You must eat with matzah and a bitter herb. That's right, the sandwich of Hillel we discussed yesterday, right? But when you have no Paschal offering, which means that when the temple is not standing, so you understand that there is no obligation to eat matzah and a bitter herb. So Kamash Melan, so therefore the verse teaches us what? That the mitzvah, that this mitzvah apply every Pesach, whether or not you have Beit HaMikdash. Bi'ah.
Oh, well, we have Beit HaMikdash, but okay.
Yeah, Beit HaMikdash Kaya. The truth is, there is another pasuk in Shmot Yud Bet, Shmot Exodus 12, verse 18. The Torah used the term Ba'erev tochlu matzot. In the eve, you shall eat matzot. It means even you don't have a Paschal lamb,
Eat matzah.
you have to eat matzah, right? But according to Sfot and others, you have to differentiate between the mitzvah that applies every place, even the time, regardless if you have a Beit HaMikdash or not. And one is the mitzvah achila bazman hazeh, the mitzvah of eating matzah nowadays. And there's a Marsha that explained it at length. But anyway, that's the famous Mechilta Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai. Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai said that how do you know that that's applied nowadays? You may think only in the time the temple was standing. So he derived, Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai derived, in Mechilta he said, Ba'erev tuchlu matzot, derivative specifically ba'aretz, bechol moshvotechem tuchlu matzot, applies also bechol moshvotechem, in any place of dwelling, including outside of Eretz Israel. Anyway, bi'ad echatav rachman agabei tefillin upeter chamor lamali. Why do we need the term coming, which the Torah used with regards to tefillin and the firstborn donkey, as the Torah this mitzvah, when and it shall be when the Lord will bring you into the land of Canaan. So they said, "Ahu mibalech the tam devi Rabbi Ishmael." You need it for the Tana, the school of Rabbi Ishmael. Aseh mitzvah zo shebishvila tikanes laaretz. Perform the mitzvah of putting tefillin, on the account on which you shall be rewarded and enter the land of Israel. So, first of all, we should know that the mitzvah of maror, you should know that it's midrabanan nowadays, right? That's clear, right? But also, we see sources that this mitzvot applies also on the outside of Eretz Yisrael. The Torah said, "Ve'et be'emat alviim tachat be'emtam," which means that the Peter Chamor, as the Gemara in Bechorot, page 4, said that it was a time that they are in the wilderness. Tefillin is also, they said, in that context. So, and Talmud Torah, study Torah for sure applies any place that they are. Yerushalmi goes differently, and he said that the idea of putting tefillin every place, because the Torah said is via negativa. The Torah said in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 11, "Va'avadetem mehira," we said every day on the Shema, you should expunge quickly me'al haaretz hatova, from the land, good land, and then it's written, "Ukshartem otam le'ot yeredchem," you should put it down on your hands and upon your head. So it means that even Peter Chamor, even the one that the firstborn of a donkey, it's outside of Israel, because we learn from the Hekesh of Tefillin that both of them, it's written, the Ramban said, in the same parasha. Anyway, I would like to conclude with the Khatam Sofer. The Khatam Sofer said that all these mitzvot applies only if you have the Jews live in Eretz Yisrael. It was a period of time of 52 years that it was a big question how many and what's left. So he brought in the Nefesh Chaya, in the first Teshuvah, it's written there that it wasn't any all these musagim of mitzvot atluyot ba'aretz, because it was very few that left there. But that's the beauty, that we, aseh mitzvah zo, you fulfill the mitzvah of sanctification of the Peter Chamor and the mitzvah of tefillin, donning tefillin in a desert. As a reward of that, you married to enter the land.
Shula